here to everybody saying, you know, I want to go and live in America. Why can't we have that? Maybe we don't. And of course, then what was so, I mean, pennies from heaven for a news channel, but the next day we had that dreary attempt at a public speaker, Starmer, you know, talking about the horrors of Southport. And I want to talk to you about this because so many people have an opinion on this, but I as I say, I went out on a limb yesterday, and I think a lot of people do agree with it. I mean, he was quite cynically, in my mind, using the contempt of law excuse to say, you know, I can't say anything about Rudy Picana back in July, when he will have known, as will have Rayner. They will have known there was ricin, they will have known there was an Al-Qaeda guide book, whatever it is, and he will have known. What I found astonishing was that the government in the past, including all sorts of governments and him, have said, this is terror-related, leave it, we're dealing with it, but nothing. The riots happened, the build-up of what's the answer, who is this person, it exploded onto the streets. His reason for not giving out detail was not to prejudice Rudy Picana's case, but he called everybody far-right that went on the streets, and subsequently what happened. And then he stood there yesterday and he went, I want to protect the kids, but won't agree to a bloody national inquiry into the rape gangs because he's scared of losing seats north of Watford Gap with a Muslim vote. Isn't that the truth?
It's the way this government is behaving is so shocking. Keir Starmer is the most pathetic leader we've had in decades. He really has no moral authority whatsoever. And this case, the Southport case, has really demonstrated that. You know, the thing that the government is now saying is that this is the Amazon killer. Keir Starmer refers to him as the two-click killer because he bought a knife online in 2 clicks. Look, we can have a discussion about whether it's too easy to buy a knife online.
Well, hold on a second. Let me stop you right there. When I did JK Live 2 years ago, we ordered 3 online. They arrived at the news building within 24 hours. I did a whole show on it. If he was that interested, and that idiot who runs London, they would have done something about the large tech companies and how easy it is to get that without any proof of age or anything. That is a damn excuse about a knife. The kid was 4 days off his 18th birthday. The fact of the matter is, if he'd said this is terrorist related and informed the British people and been honest and open, I don't think those riots would have happened as they happened. And he, in my mind, has prejudiced the people who wrote stuff that might have been unpalatable. They're now in prison for 15 months.
You know, Jeremy, if they listened to you and watched your show, maybe they would have come to these conclusions a bit earlier. It's way too late for them now to be talking about the dangerous, the ease with which people can get knives. But it is such a deflection. Yeah. This is a displacement activity of epic proportions, because the truth of the matter is that Rudy Picana there were 15 opportunities that he could have been stopped. He was referred to prevent 3 times. He was known to be carrying knives. He was known to have an interest in killing children. All of this was known, and every wing of the state failed to do its job. The education system, the criminal justice system, the police, social workers,
and they've come out today. They're all going to start backbiting each other. The police today say we were gagged by the CPS over the Southport killer. It's not our fault. The whole system, but even Starmer at that moment now standing up pontificating, I'm going to protect the children. Deal with the rape gangs as well then, mate, if you want to protect our kids. Seriously.
You know, the problem we face today is actually really profound, which is that the state has retreated from its responsibility to protect citizens.
Withdrawn from that, sorry to jump in, withdrawn from that, but stick their bleeding nose in and tell us we have to drive an electric car, or we can't eat that meat, or we can't go there on holiday, or it's extraordinary. Their priorities are wrong, Brendan, aren't they?
Oh, it's this unholy marriage between a nanny state that wags its finger at us all the time and this hands-off state that does nothing about serious crime. It doesn't follow up on people who have been referred to prevent. It doesn't take things like the rape gangs seriously, and it turned a blind eye, in fact, for years and years. So this is a state that will say you can't smoke that close to a pub entrance, and also it won't come around to your house if you've been burgled. It won't look into this young man in Southport who was known to have murderous intentions and known to have knives. It won't look into the rape gangs when everyone knew that they were raping, assaulting, and in some cases killing working class girls. So we have a state that is doing all the things it shouldn't be doing, bossing us around and telling us how to live our lives, and not doing any of the things it should be doing, which is protecting vulnerable people, including children, from serious harm.
Can I just ask you a question? Is all of that incompetence in your mind and spiked as an organisation, is it ideology? Is it incompetence? Is it arrogance? Why would you not want to protect children against anything?
I think there's institutionalized moral cowardice. There is an unwillingness to grapple with the truth of crime, with the truth of certain people from certain backgrounds who are committing certain crimes. That's what we saw in the rape gang scandal. There's an unwillingness to be honest with the public about what's going on. And we saw that in the Southport case when Starmer and others did seem to hold back certain information. And you know why? Because they don't trust us. Censorship is always driven by contempt for ordinary people. They don't trust ordinary British people to know the truth about rape gangs. They don't trust us to know the truth about Southport. They think we're a seething mob of racist pieces of shit, if you will excuse my language, and that we have to have our eyes covered and our ears covered for our own good. So that kind of censorious streak, that paternalistic streak, that authoritarian streak has also really been exposed by these recent cases.
God, I love having you on the show. You're so intelligent, man. Whenever you finish, I say to Ryan, God, I don't have any brains compared to that man. Let's talk about the other thing that's really, really resonating today, net zero. Again, me in my layman's terms will put this to you. So we've got Ed Miliband, who failed spectacularly as leader of the Labour Party on this quest to, in his words, deliver net zero, despite the fact that we only produce 1% of the carbon emissions in the world. The fact that President Trump has already removed himself from the Paris Climate Treaty tells you everything. But no, Ed Miliband is so up his own backside that today he warned Trump that net zero is unstoppable. Well, not really, because he's already pulled out of it. Here's the interesting thing. I wanted to throw this at you. So you bring in a tractor tax, you screw farmers who have to give up their farms, you land grab, you build wind farms. This weekend there's going to be a terrible, terrible storm, which will probably destroy the wind farms or the solar panels. But when it is windy, everybody will tell you that there's not going to be enough wind to create enough electricity, so then you have to import it from another country at 3 times the cost. This man is a blithering idiot. How does anybody fall for that BS? It's not going to work.
I find the net zero policy so depressing.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that Britain should be most proud of is that we were the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. This is where it started. This is where modernity started, on this tiny, wonderful island of ours. We invented industry, modern day industry. We should take pride in that, but we're ruled by people who are ashamed of it and who think that it is destroying the planet. And this net zero policy is a suicidal policy. Trump is doing exactly the right thing. He is making America energy independent so that it will make its own energy, that will create jobs, it will make the energy cheaper, and it means America will not be reliant on other foreign nations. That is exactly what Britain should be doing. We have abundant sources of oil and gas in this country, but we don't frack. We're not going to dig in the North Sea because apparently it's bad for the environment. We keep turning down
liquid gold, as Trump said. It's ours. It would improve our economy.
Absolutely. This is our stuff, and we should be taking it from the earth and creating jobs in the process and making energy cheaper for the people of this country. But instead, we are ruled by these eco-ideologues, these idiots like Ed Miliband, who want to turn the clock back and want us all to go back to wearing hair shirts and apologizing for our eco footprint. It's outrageous, and it's going to cost this country billions. It's going to cost jobs, and it's going to make us energy dependent on other countries, possibly in the future, even Russia. It's a crazy, suicidal policy.
Finally, before you go, so pleased to have you on. This happened in the last it was about the last hour. Donald Trump on Truth Social. And you love him or loathe him. And I make the point, I make it every time there's a caller, because I think it's important to say that not everything he says and does I've agreed with, but the way he has clasped, if you like, the pulse of the American people, grabbed that feeling, is something I think so many politicians across the world could learn from. I'm not looking to hurt Russia, he wrote an hour ago. I love the Russian people and always had a very good relationship with Putin. And this, despite the radical left's Russia, Russia, Russia hoax. You must never forget that Russia helped us win the Second World War and lost lives in the process. All of that being said, I'm going to do Russia, whose economy is failing, and President Putin a very big favour. Settle now and stop this ridiculous war, because it's only going to get worse. If we don't make a deal, and soon, I will have no other choice to put high levels of taxes, tariffs and sanctions on anything being sold by Russia to the United States and various other participating countries. Let's get this war, which never would have started if I'd been president, over with. We can do it the easy way, Putin, or the hard way. But trust me, the easy way is always better. It's time to make a deal. No more lives should be lost. I find myself getting goosebumps there. Everybody will say to me, not in this building. They go, oh, no, he's going to get it stopped, isn't he? Unbelievably, he'll get that stopped as well.
You know, I agree with you that one doesn't have to agree with everything Donald Trump says. No. It would be weird if we did agree with everything Donald Trump says. You know, we don't agree with any person all the time. But what a relief to have a world leader who speaks so honestly. That in itself is just so valuable in world affairs. Nothing is shrouded in mystery. He doesn't use euphemism. He speaks plainly. He shoots from the hip. He says what he wants to do. That just makes the world an easier place to understand, and it makes people understand what Trump wants from them. I think he's right. Everyone wants an end to this infernal war in Ukraine, which Russia started with its invasion. Everyone wants that to come to an end, no more lives to be lost. And the fact that he's making this one of his priorities shows that he actually takes world peace and global stability very seriously. And I wish more politicians, especially in Europe, were the same.
I got poo-pooed when I said during some months ago, you know, that there were no wars when he was in the White House. There weren't. I believe... listen, he's a deal maker and he'll see it as a deal, and that message smacks of it being a deal. You can do it my way or it's the highway, Putin, and I will levy taxes. I'm sure he'll bring them to the table, and I'm sure he'll find an answer. And you know, you just look at so much, you know, that announcement that troops have gone to the border, the message to Putin about the war. And I just find myself craving the conviction and the strength in this country. But of course, there is the hope, Brendan, I'd love your response to this, that we could become the 51st state of America. What do you think about that? And then he'd be our boss.
Well, I do think we should maintain close links with America, absolutely. And I'm so worried that we've got Starmer, Miliband, Lammy, all these people in power who've said the most outrageous things about Donald Trump. They've called him a KKK sympathizer, a fascist, a Nazi, a racist, when in truth, he has built the largest cross-race, cross-generation voting bloc in history. And they are there insulting him and ridiculing him. That's got to end. We've got to be more serious, and we've got to treat America as a friend. And we haven't been doing that over the past few years.